All right, once again, I'm very happy to be with you and also to contribute to this special program in honor of St. Joseph. I'm sure you are all aware that Pope Francis has declared this year in honor of St. Joseph. Of course, this is all part of one of the very rich traditions of our Catholic faith, which is what we call a devotional life. This is a spiritual life, a life of spirituality that runs parallel to the liturgical life of the Church, namely the sacraments, the Mass, and so forth. And down through the centuries, we have this very rich flourishing and flowering of a devotional life, usually tied to the Blessed Mother, or to one of our many, many saints, some aspect of the lives of these people that continue to inspire us. And maybe people have these devotional lives because they turn to these saints, including Mary and now St. Joseph, in order to obtain their assistance, their help for something that they might be dealing with in their lives. Certainly, Mary has a very rich number of devotions. When I was a youngster growing up at home in Philadelphia, my mother and my father, every single Monday night, would join hundreds and hundreds of people and would often take me along to the Vincentian Church of the Immaculate Conception in Germantown in order to participate in the devotion to the Miraculous Medal. And Pope Francis, for example, has introduced another devotion to the Blessed Mother, called Mary, Our Lady the Untier of Knots. This is a devotion that goes all the way back to southern Germany in the 16th century. I would call that to your attention, and you can Google it. The Untier of Knots, a beautiful devotion in honor of Our Lady. This year we're concentrating on St. Joseph, and if I could contribute my own thinking to this particular little program, this effort that we're making here in honor of Joseph, it would be to emphasize the importance of having a devotion, having an attachment, having a relationship with St. Joseph under one of the many, many aspects of his life, which is exactly what a devotional life that we conduct is supposed to concentrate on. He has traditionally been the saint that we turn to for a happy death. We presume that St. Joseph, of course, died before Jesus and Mary, and as a result of that, he is someone that we pray to who could not want a death experience that Jesus and Mary were not present, and clearly from tradition, St. Joseph had that benefit. But if I could deviate a little bit from that very well-established tradition, that devotion of turning to St. Joseph for the grace of a happy death, I would concentrate on something else that has always struck me, and I think it's an important aspect of his life, and that his commitment to duty. We see this effort on his part to completely surrender his life. He is a young man looking forward to being married to Mary, as she was looking forward to being married to Joseph and planning a life together and so forth, and suddenly the will of God manifests itself to the pair of them, and their lives are turned completely upside down, but they cooperated. They cooperated with what God asked of them, and there was never any deviation, certainly on Mary's part and certainly on Joseph's part as well. And so I've always turned to him and asked him, to keep me faithful, to inspire me with his own sense of duty. So many difficulties transpired in the life of this man, not the least of which was all of his dreams for his own life with Mary turned upside down, and yet he continued to be faithful out of a deep sense of duty. And in the history of Celtic spirituality, we have a number of different categories. Interestingly enough, that speak to us of forms of martyrdom. You will find this in the writings of people like St. Bridget and St. Kevin of Glendalough, so forth. They speak first of all of a red martyrdom, which is the actual shedding of blood out of a sense of fidelity to participating in the suffering and death of Jesus, willing to sacrifice their own life. And the history of the Church this week alone, there's several of these martyrs. So many of them devoted themselves to the life of Jesus, and it cost them their lives. So you have this tradition in Celtic spirituality of red martyrdom. And then there's evidence of a second category, which they call green martyrdom. And this is the martyrdom that is experienced by people who, in order to be opened to the demands of life and the will of God in their life, are willing to leave the comfort of their own country, the comfort of their own lifestyles, and set out into different territory, into different realms of life, all in a sense of dying to what they have left behind in order to be available for what God would ask of them and what their lives demand of them. This green martyrdom is tied to Ireland, of course, and the green hills of that beautiful country that millions of these people have left to go out all over the world because of very bad circumstances, particularly during the years of the famine in the 19th century. And then you come upon something in Irish or Celtic spirituality that they refer to as white martyrdom. And this is what I perceive in the life of St. Joseph. White martyrdom means that you let go of your own needs and your own likes and your own preferences, and you commit yourself to the duties that you said you were going to perform. And I think that Joseph is a classic example of someone who has experienced this white martyrdom. When you take into consideration his agreement to protect Mary, he's never mentioned, actually, there's no words of St. Joseph anywhere in the scriptures. He is described kind of from a distance and he's alluded to, but there's never any dialogue. It's like this man was in the background, in the shadows, but nowhere did he not take up what he said he was going to do, even if it meant taking Mary and Jesus to a foreign country to protect the child from the grip of Herod, and coming back when that particular thing was over, being faithful to his duties. Will you protect Mary and Joseph? And said yes. Will you protect Jesus? And Joseph said yes, and was willing to let go of his own preferences and his own desires. And in a world, if I can say this today, where so many people are absenting themselves from the duties that they said they were going to perform in life commitments, marriage and family life and so forth, following their own interests and their own pleasures, making no judgment call on my part. But Joseph has emerged, at least for me. I look at him, and we have a beautiful statue here of him, and it's right in front of where I usually sit when we're gathering for Mass and for prayers, and I pray to him every morning, whatever this day demands of me, whatever is asked of me, whatever request comes unexpectedly, let me have that same disposition that you had, and let me rise to the occasion, even though it might interfere with my schedule, and let me rise to the occasion and do the best I can to respond to the needs of people and so forth. Give me a deep sense of duty to the commitment that I said as a priest and as a friar when I took my vows and when I was ordained. And I need to turn to him quite frequently, to be perfectly honest with you, so that that call to duty is something that I never absent myself from. So it's one aspect of this man's life. Yes, we have this rich devotion to him, asking him to be with us in the moment of death and give us a peaceful and happy death. But there's many other aspects of his life that we can also create a devotion to. And I have chosen for my life to turn to him always and ask for the grace of duty, the grace of commitment, and the grace of perseverance. So, that's what I offer for your consideration, my little contribution to this program that we're doing in this year of St. Joseph. Thank you.